Welcome to UNSECURITY, FR Secure's weekly radio show where we take an inside look at hacking, breaches, best practices, and all things you need to know to improve your information security practices. Here's your host, CEO Evan Francine.
Welcome to the last UNSECURITY podcast episode of 2019, and actually the last UNSECURITY podcast episode of the decade. We've got a great show planned for you today. The date is December 30th, and this is episode number 60. Joining me, as almost always, is my guy, Brad Nye. Hi, Brad.
Morning, Evan.
How are you?
I'm good.
We don't have a guest today,
No.
so it's just me and you, but we've got a good recap for 2019 planned. How was your weekend?
Good, other than the bad weather. Although it was kind of fun. The ice storm here in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So Saturday morning we stayed home, but we were, out basically like sliding down the driveway, and kids got to have some fun with it at least.
Minnesota pisses me off this time of year.
Yeah.
Can I say pisses me off?
My daughters were mad that it wasn't snow.
Yeah. Can you imagine if it would have been snow?
We
would have gotten
12 plus inches easily.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, when I put together today's show notes, I felt like I was a little harsh, maybe even depressing. I put them together last night, so I was a little bit late. It's not like I was depressed when I wrote the notes, but I took an objective look at the last 12 months, at 2019, and it kind of got depressing for me. 2019 brought with it a record number of breaches, a record number of records disclosed or stolen. Ransomware seemed like it was everywhere. I don't even know how many incident responses we responded to in our own little neck of the woods.
A lot.
Yeah, right. But accountability is always a good thing. So, Brad, do I seem depressed to you?
No.
Okay, good.
Unfortunately, it's a bit realistic, right? You're not putting that rosy shine on things. It's the grim reality right now.
Well, and from a business perspective, it was a great year.
Mm-hmm.
FR Secure, best year ever. Security Studio, best year ever. More clients than ever, more revenue than ever. The sad thing is, though, when you look at our industry, I don't think it's been worse.
Yeah.
And so this episode is, I figured we'd talk about this. We talk about the not so good things, from 2019, and then we can do the good things in 2020.
Yeah. Start off the decade right.
Yeah. Because there's tons of good things too, but it's sort of hard to cover them all in just one show.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. 2019 year in review. The first thing, it sort of dawned on me, and I think it happens every year. Maybe it comes with age, but I look back and I go, holy crap, where did 2019 go? Do you do that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. What happened?
I know. So I'm like, well, let's just do some easy rudimentary math. And so, I did that, realized, estimated, maybe 3,380 hours I spent this year working.
So I saw that and I did mine, and I thought I worked a lot, and I was about 2,700 hours. I don't know where that.
Oh, crap. Really?
You got a lot more.
All right. I worked too much, but that's sort of the moral of the story. So where did the time go for 2019? For me, 38.58% of my time was spent working.
Yeah, mine was at 30.1415.
Okay, so maybe a little more in balance for you. 27.09% of my year, 2,373 hours, was spent sleeping.
I was at 2,600.
Okay.
So a little bit. I got average about 7 hours a night.
Yeah. Well, you're healthier, I think, than I am.
I try. I probably not the healthiest, because during the week it's like 5 hours, and then on the weekends I just crash.
I get it.
Probably not the best balance.
23.90%, or 2,094 hours. I just marked down as personal, meaning family, friends, etc. Quality time. What'd you get?
I came in at about 2,000, which was 23%. It's a little bit higher percentage, but lower number. But
okay.
I think my kids are younger, so they go to bed, a little earlier.
Right.
So there was more other time.
Yeah.
Versus, with family or friends.
And I think my other, it said 10.42. So I classified into 4 buckets: working, sleeping, personal, and other. I think my other number, now that I think about it, is probably low. But I put 913 hours, which ended up being 10.4%.
Yeah, mine was about just 1486, which was the leftover. So about 17%.
Okay.
But I think if you combine the personal and other, that's kind of the,
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, my wife reads my blog posts, so I'm sure she'll comment.
Oh yeah, mine listens to the podcast. So yeah,
So I've got, I spent roughly 15% more time working than I did making memories with my family in 2019. Now, one thing that I've noticed is as I get older, memories with family becomes more important to me. So I'm sort of convicted that I think 2019, where my time went, was maybe not best spent. I think I could have spent more time with my family.
Well, hopefully we've got, structure and support in place here so that you don't have to spend as much time working in 2020.
Well, and I think for me, it's not you guys. I'm my own worst enemy.
Yeah. Well,
I know. If you leave me to my own devices, I'll do a bunch of unhealthy things.
Yeah.
Which, thank God for my wife, because she's the one who does keep me.
Yep. My kids were, they keep me in line too. The other day I woke up at, 3:30 or something. It's like, I was so proud. I told them I didn't go to work till 5. And they're like, ooh, you didn't get to work till 5? Way to go. Super sarcastic golf clap.
Giving you the golf clap.
I could have gone in at 4.
Right. So anyway, this is, I do like reflecting this time of year. I notice, one, obviously that my priorities can probably be adjusted. But also this time of year is, was reflecting on just what happened in the industry. A lot of the things that happened personally, great. I don't know if listeners really care about necessarily all that stuff, but, the industry, when you look at the industry as a whole, it doesn't seem like we're making a lot of progress.
No, a lot of spinning wheels, but we got, AI and blinky lights and selling stuff.
Right. So in the show notes, I referred to we're losing the war. We're winning little battles here and there, but I'm not sure how significant they are in the greater scheme of things. Do you view this kind of the same way when you read that part of the show notes?
Yeah, it's tough. It's like, we've made a lot of good progress, but it's, how many is 3 million companies in that small to mid-sized market?
Yeah.
We're a fraction of a percentage. And it's like, you do what you can and try to make a positive impact where you can, but you just look at it and it's like, good Lord.
Right. So this war, that I refer to in the show notes, I don't know if people think of it that way. I do, sort of, because bad people are taking advantage of good people. Immoral people are taking advantage of decent people. Immoral and corrupt, or informed and corrupt people are taking advantage of the ignorant and noble. And it's sad to see. I mean, that's really what keeps me going every day. That's why I get up. That's why I'm excited to come to work, is to try to make a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah. Yep.
And so business is growing. So we're having more of an effect, I hope, on more people, yet the industry itself seems to be backsliding, or maybe.
I think it still goes back to that cash grab.
Yeah.
A lot of it still is people are just, there's so much money out there. They're just grabbing and throwing stuff out to say, hey, so here's your new security product.
Yeah.
It's your easy button, which we know doesn't work.
So in the priorities and life adjustments, the first part of the 2019 in review, one of the adjustments that, as I reflect on 2019, I spent too much time working. So I'm going to try to do a little, maybe less of that. But now my wife is studying OSINT. She bought her first OSINT book, and she's going to be reading it on the trip down to Mexico coming up next week. So maybe she'll catch the bug, and we'll both be working our asses off. But what about you? priorities 2019 compared to what you're kind of trying to do in 2020? Were you convicted of anything, or do you feel like you need to make any adjustments?
I mean, I don't know. It's tough because you do feel like, there's always, excuse me, always more to do. It's like, I feel like I could work more. And then you look at the numbers and you're like, well, no, I really shouldn't be.
Right.
Because I got, a family that does, for the most part, want to see me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, it's tough because, like you said, there's so much to do it's like I'm like, I could put way more hours in. It's not healthy, but it's because you believe in what we're working on.
Yeah.
Going in and feeling like you do something and making a positive impact every day.
True.
No,
you seem to be more in balance when I just look at you as a friend and see kind of how you have things together.
I try.
I love how you're there for your kids. So you may not have to make nearly as much adjustment. My kids are mostly grown up and out of the house. So.
Well, yeah, they get to the teenage years and they're like, it's nice that you're around, but they don't necessarily care if you're working as long as you're kind of there if they need you.
Yeah. So a good exercise for anybody who's, for people listening, do your own numbers, put them in those 4 buckets. Just estimate the number of hours you spent working, the number of hours you spent sleeping, the number of hours you spent on personal time, meaning, and to me, that's like the quality time. And then the number of hours you spent on other. The things that I kind of put in other was working out, which I don't do.
Yeah, your alone time, as it were.
Yeah, so maybe the
hobbies.
Maybe that's why my other is so low, because I don't work out. But travel.
Yeah.
We're driving back and forth from the office all the time. It's just kind of wasted time sometimes. Yeah. But anyway, do your own numbers and share if you want. If you're a competitive type, 3,380 hours working is what I did. So,
you don't want to win that one.
Yeah, try to keep it below that. But I know that there are people in our industry who work a lot more than that.
Yeah, which, not healthy. It leads to the burnout, and we just don't want that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, remember that information security is a part of life. It's not life.
Right.
You're missing so many other things.
Working to live, not living to work.
True.
Right.
Yep. Wise. All right. So the war that I feel like we're losing, I have three fronts on which I feel like we're losing the battle. One is breaches are more common than ever, but we seem to care less than ever. I think we've got a breach fatigue problem, which we'll talk about. Front number 2, our local governments and schools are losing their battles, and I'm not sure how people feel about that. Front number 3, our homes are part of the battleground. They've been part of the battleground for a while. Whether or not they've been actively sort of stomped on by troops, good or bad, is up for debate. But they're part of this too. So let's talk about these things. Let's talk first on front number 1. I came across 2 news articles that I thought were interesting to sort of support, what I feel like we're losing, the breaches being more common than ever. One was, from CNET. I thought it was a great article where they broke down the 2019 data breaches, some of the biggest ones of the year.
And I will say I love their subtag on the header or whatever that's called.
Right. Yeah. So here's the title. It's 2019 Data Breach Hall of Shame. These were the biggest data breaches of the year. And then the subtitle that Brad's alluding to is, we never want to hear the words unsecured database ever again.
So true.
But we will.
I know.
So,
well, until they change the default settings.
Right. So some of the interesting things, I think in this article is the total number of breaches this year was up 33% over last year. Actually, there's another article too that I want to call attention to. It's on Lifehacker. Mm-hmm. It's the worst data breaches of 2019 is the title of that one. But some of the stats. So total number of breaches was up 33% over last year. Medical services, retailers, and public entities were most affected. There were a total of 5,183 data breaches for a total of 7.9 billion exposed records. Risk-Based Security, another information security company, stated that 2019 was the worst year on record for breaches. Doesn't sound positive, does it?
No.
So it's like, okay. So then you look through that article and it's amazing, because some of these breaches seem like they were so long ago, and some of these I didn't even realize happened.
Yeah.
I work in this industry, man.
And it's so tough too, because, right, like that, well, you look at the Equifax that came back and now.
Yeah, that's small potatoes.
Well, and all that, everybody's going to get money. Nope.
Yeah, how much money did you get?
0.
Did you not?
I claimed, but I haven't gotten a check or anything.
I got money. I can't remember what I got. Or did I?
It was like, I don't think people have, but it was like the majority of it went shockingly to the lawyers, not to the people actually affected.
I know. Class action lawsuits, lawyers.
So, anyway.
Tick me off. We should have Justin Webb back on, ask about how that works.
I mean, and it's not to say they don't do a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it was a penance of what, there was no reason for Equifax to stop.
Well, it doesn't seem just, does it? When the lawyers were, they may not have been victims along with the rest of us, but to get, millions of dollars.
Tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Yeah. Anyway.
So we should go back to school.
Oh, thank you.
Let's try that.
So Marriott in January.
383 million records. February 617 million records.
16 websites.
That was part of the multiple dumps that I think Troy Hunt found, or on the dark web. March, hundreds of millions of Facebook and Instagram accounts. Do you remember that one?
I wouldn't. There's too many Facebook ones.
I know. April
was like, which one is that?
April was 540 million Facebook. May 885 million first American financial records.
Don't skip over in April the 540, and then they also found millions of Instagram in plain text.
Sure, why not?
And then 12.5 million medical records of pregnant women.
20 million patients in June from a medical bill collector, American Medical Collection Association. July, Capital One, 100 million credit card applications. August, Movie Pass, and 160 million unencrypted, unauthenticated records. That's one that I didn't even hear about.
Yeah, I didn't hear. You know what? I do remember seeing that, but I've never used it. So it's
218 million words with friends accounts in September. 4 billion social media profile records, and nobody knows who's to blame for that one in October. November, we had Facebook again. So these aren't small companies with no budget for information security. These are large companies with tons of records that should maybe know better, or are, so there's just so many questions about this. One is, first off, let's talk about breach fatigue.
Yeah.
Do people care?
I mean, I think part of it is you get to the point where it's like, what am I going to do?
Right.
There's nothing I can do to stop this.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, well, my information's already all out there. What difference does it make if it's leaked once or 5 times?
True. Well, and you have to wonder, some of this information that's been stolen that hasn't been used yet. So your social security number is been stolen, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Mine has as well.
I had fraudulent taxes filed under my name.
When?
In 2016.
Okay. So, but it's still out there, and you still have a social security number, probably the same one.
Yep.
So, I mean, conspiracy theory maybe, but somebody's sitting on billions
of stuff,
or millions and millions of social security numbers. For what reason? And what would happen if somehow you could figure out systematically to use all those social security numbers to file or apply for loans with all sorts of financial institutions all across the United States, and they were all fraudulent?
Well, and the big one now is fraudulent healthcare.
Right. But even this one, I mean, because the fact is it's out there already.
Yeah.
And how would that affect the financial services industry in the United States? If you could,
Yeah. I don't know.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't feel good about that.
No. Well, because somebody's going to.
The fact that somebody has my information and I know they have my information, yet I'm just in this waiting game to wait until somebody decides to use it.
I mean, you freeze your credit, do some of those things.
Because we also know in cyber insurance, what's the number one thing that insurance companies fear the most?
Everybody getting hit at once.
Exactly. The same thing happens in financial services. Is if one person has a fraud or a couple people have fraudulent stuff, even maybe 1 million, but imagine, 100 million.
Yeah. Or
I don't know.
Even 10 million.
So
those get to be big numbers.
Right. So we have this breach fatigue, right? Which is sort of like, all right, so what? Right. I don't care. I'm helpless.
I think that's a big piece. It's I'm helpless to do anything.
Yeah. And it's just another day, right? I mean, you read about it every single day. So there's so much danger, I think, in breach fatigue, because then I think the next thing that happens is after breach fatigue, does breach acceptance come next, where I just accept it? This is reality.
Yeah. And I think that you're starting to see that to some extent with people. Right. It's and
that gets even
fortunately
that gets even dangerouser. That's a word. I'm an author.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think it's going to slow down until these companies are held accountable to a point where it actually hurts. Right.
There's that. And then there's, because we know that the way security works, that there's no matter what I do, I cannot prevent all bad things from happening. Right. So some of these breaches you read about, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback and say, well, how could you have ever done that? Well, there are human beings behind all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And human beings make mistakes. So is it one, holding companies accountable, or how about the ability for me to control my own information? I mean, this gets deep, right? Because we can talk about this, because I think it's all a racket. To be honest, I never, take my social security number, for instance. I never had any control over it. I never asked for one. I was given one. The government maintains it, or whatever they do with it. And then all the financial institutions, educational institutions, all use my number with or without my.
And they use it as both an identifier and an authenticator.
Right.
And
so the whole system's broken. And then it doesn't become. When a problem arises, then it becomes my problem. Right. That's even though I never asked for this problem. What are you talking about? Why could this be? How could this be my problem? Right. Yeah. So I think the whole system sort of has to change, but I think it's going to take a big bad thing to happen. Not the breach or the loss of the information itself, but the actual use of the information.
Financial pain is what's going to drive change.
It's going to hurt, man.
Yeah, that's going to be.
Dangers behind this breach fatigue is, because everybody's got this mentality of, well, it's never going to happen to me. Right. I get it. It's never probably happened to you. Most people haven't lost their identities. But what happens when it does? Yeah. Well,
I thought I had done everything right, and then I don't even remember which breach my stuff got out on. It was, I don't remember. Anyway, right. It was shockingly one of the big ones. I had my credit frozen. I have all that. And I filed my taxes third week of February. Yeah. And somebody beat me by 3 days and filed fraudulent. You can do everything right. Right. And still be a victim of it. Right. Yeah. And there's a fix for it, but it's not easy. Right. Yeah. You'd have to give me control over my number, over my identity, as opposed to just giving me an identity and then giving me no control over it. Well, you'd have to give me control. So allow me, because what happens is if my sensitive information is lost or stolen, any sensitive information is lost or stolen, the only thing that you can do to sort of remediate that is to make that information not valuable anymore. Right. So if you stole my social security number and then I just changed my social security number or created something different, I was able to manage my own identity. Then your social security, the number, the data you stole from me is useless. Yeah. And Yeah, how are they going to do that?
Well, you can do it, but it's going to take a complete redesign.
Yeah. Well, and we know how
that's the only way to fix it.
I
Otherwise,
agree.
You just
I'm just trying to
keep putting Band-Aids on these bullet holes.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to be. We know the government is not quick.
Well, the government's not paying the price.
Yeah,
you're paying the price. I'm paying the price.
Well, it'll happen again. It's going to happen when something massive happens, and as long as they're going to have to.
As long as we don't care, as a population, as long as we don't care, right? Breach fatigue has led to breach acceptance. I don't care.
Yeah.
Why is anybody going to change it?
No, it's going to happen when some massive financial thing happens and it threatens the economy, and now and then they're going to have to come in, and then it's going to take years to do it. They should be proactive. Yeah. But I'm with you. It's so
depressing. I told you.
It's frustrating.
It is frustrating
because a lot of times you look at this stuff, right? You can't control, but a lot of these breaches are easily preventable with fundamentals. And that's what pisses me off.
Yeah.
Is it's like, okay, we've got, billions of records on unsecured, publicly accessible databases.
Unencrypted,
no password.
Right.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah. So 2019, I agree completely, man. And that stuff torques me too. But the whole system being sort of busticated. So we had a record number of breaches, a record number of exposed records. That leads to kind of my next question. Are we getting better at finding and reporting breaches, or are breaches happening more often? Therefore, maybe we're getting worse. I mean, do you think the industry is better?
I think it's a combination of we're getting better at actually hearing about these things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I know. It's a tough question, isn't it? I do think we're getting better at finding and reporting breaches.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot more researchers out there. A lot of the stuff that we found has been either on the dark web, or it's been, a container left, a database left open somewhere.
I think it's we're hearing more about them, but there's probably more because more people are moving to the cloud because it's secure.
True.
Right. So it's probably man, I'm trying to, I don't know.
When we focus so much of our time and effort too on the sexy things, right? I mean, I get, research is, very important, but it's not all important, right? I mean, the fundamentals are important, but they're also not all important. So it's kind of all of us sort of working together, sort of figuring out what are the most impactful things that we can do as an industry to make this better, because it's not getting better.
No.
Whether we're getting better at finding and reporting breaches, or we're getting worse at security. And like you said, it's probably a combination of the two. I would say overall, we're not making progress.
No. Not at a rate that is going to be successful.
Right. So we're closing out the decade. In 2010, when breaches occurred, there was a lot more outrage. There was a lot more, fear maybe, but just call to action, holding people accountable. And
Mm-hmm.
now it's like, another breach. So what? What do I do? Like take the Target breach when that happened in 2013.
Oh yeah.
I was on like news stations everywhere. What can we do? What can we do to protect ourselves? How can we, now it's like, another breach.
Yeah.
And some of these I never even heard of before.
Well,
like
and
you said.
You gotta keep in mind, like I was thinking about it. I think it was the Anthem breach. Might have been the one. It was 37.5 million records in 2015. That's not that wouldn't even be on the list.
No,
this year. Yeah. They're getting bigger, I think.
Getting bigger and getting and worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a sad state of affairs. And the only way, the only way to undo the damage done by sensitive information being lost or stolen is to make the sensitive information not sensitive anymore.
And that's probably, I don't even want to hazard a guess of how long that would take.
Well, right. And that's just Social Security numbers, right? You've also got health records.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you make my health record no longer valuable? I suppose maybe tie it something. I mean, this can get really deep.
Yeah.
And what about IP that's been lost or stolen?
You can't get that back. That's gone.
Right. I mean, that's actually, that's intellectual property.
Yeah.
All right. Excuse me. So anyway, front number one, that's where I feel like we're losing that battle or that war or the war on that front, and if you know how wars are fought, they're fought on multiple fronts in most cases. That one doesn't look good. Front number two, our local governments and schools are losing their battles. We've read over and over and over again about how ransomware has been nailing our local governments and schools, our municipalities. I came across really a good article. I thought it was well written. I love the way he laid it out. It's from Michael Mays at CPO Magazine. And the title is Top 10 Ransomware Stories of 2019. Some interesting stuff here. And again, these things happen so often in our industry that I think we tend to forget. Because, one of the things in there is, he says, as the year ends, it's time to declare 2019 the year of ransomware escalation. Baltimore, we all heard about Baltimore, right? I don't know how much they spent. 17.6 million or something was budgeted.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And you read, I don't know how much you know about the city of Baltimore, but if you read about the city of Baltimore, that's a city in shambles, man.
Well, I think what happens, you're seeing it all over the place, is they're just not given the financing to do. There's no money. But
if you look at what this article is awesome, because if you look at what the CIO went to the council for budget, security wasn't highlighted there. So even the CIO, the person who's responsible for this, or not for this, but for protecting this. And these are basics, man. I mean, the fundamentals around ransomware, the same fundamentals we were talking about, at the advent of computers. Right in the 90s, I remember advising people and changing backup tapes.
Right.
And taking those backup tapes off site, right? So it was a physical air gap so that when something happened to the server or, a fire or something, I could still restore.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. No, I know.
It's like back up your damn data.
Yeah.
And the solution is right in front of you.
That it works.
And do you drive your car every day without oil?
Well, I mean, some people do, but
I'm
those
with people,
it is. I'm with you though. It just keeps coming back to the fundamentals, and people put, blinky lights in place and spend the money on, we kind of, make fun of it a little bit, but the AI, machine learning and next gen, and assume, well, I spent all this money on this software or this whatever appliance, I'm good, but then don't know what they have. It's not configured properly. It's not looking in the right places.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much you spend on it. If you're not doing the fundamentals, it's just a matter of time.
Well, and it's simple, and it's negligence.
Yeah.
If you're not backing up your data.
Right.
And protecting those backups.
Right.
And you get hit by ransomware. I mean, not backing up your data is negligent. I don't understand how you can phrase it any different. How could you possibly claim you didn't know?
Right.
Well, I didn't know I was supposed to back up my data. What? I didn't know I was supposed to change oil in my car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mommy and daddy didn't teach you very well.
Well, right. And, asset management. What do you have that needs to be backed up? What's the classification of it? It is. And it really does. It's not hard stuff. Right. That's the thing.
Right.
Is it sometimes difficult to do? Yes. Right. But it's not hard to understand.
It's not complex.
Yeah.
Right. So Baltimore was just one of 82 cities and municipalities that publicly reported being hit by ransomware in 2019. 82 cities.
Publicly reported.
Right. I'm sure there were some others. That's astonishing. They have 82 cities and municipalities who didn't know you were supposed to back up your data, or you knew and you purposely made a choice not to.
Right. And what blows my mind is we did do that push earlier this year.
Yeah, we're going to get back on that again.
But even volunteering time,
right?
There's just no, it's not a priority. Yeah, we know it's not great, but I'll volunteer to help.
Right. Well, one of the cool things about, what did happen, well, I guess, a silver lining, unfortunately, it always takes a bad thing to happen. But a silver lining here is, 246 mayors signed a pact that they would refuse to pay ransoms.
That's good.
Well, yeah, but what does it take to undo a pact? Just pay the ransom anyway. I mean, if your political life is on 226 mayors. So 226 mayors, there's the attendee list on that article that I mentioned, the top 10 ransomware stories of 2019. And if you remember Riviera Beach and Lake City in Florida, those were two that we talked about earlier this year that ended up paying the ransom. They were not attendees at the conference. So at least they didn't break their pact and still paid the ransom. So it's just crazy because now, ransomware is evolved, and we knew it either already had or that it was going to soon.
Right.
Where now you don't pay the ransom and you recover from backup. Well, then I exfiltrated your data.
Well, that's the big one.
Your data.
That's the big one we always get in any of the incident responses from the lawyers was data exfiltrated, and I would say 95% of the time. Mm-hmm. Our answer is, I don't know.
Right.
There's no logs. Nothing was configured properly. I can't go back. I don't know.
Right.
And so, of course, lawyers want it written as there's no evidence of data exfiltration.
Right.
Which technically is true.
Right.
But just, ugh.
Well, and the counter to that, this chess game we play, the counter to that is going back to the breach piece that we just talked about on front number one, make the data no longer valuable. So if the attacker does steal personally identifiable information about me, is there a way to make that data no longer valuable to an attacker so I still don't have to pay the ransom? Because the fact of the matter is this is a criminal enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
I live...
Don't fund.
Yeah, I live in my city, and I would be livid if I found out that my city paid a ransom.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, say who, what, why?
I avoid politics, but I think that might be one of the few times and scenarios that would get me involved in doing something.
Especially if I found out you weren't doing the fundamentals.
Right.
If you did, despite your best efforts, right, you followed the fundamentals, you seemed to do everything right, and you made a mistake, and therefore led to this. I could accept that because I'm a human being too. I make mistakes.
Right. Yeah. And
I've never not clicked on a link before. I mean,
right. Well, and we've seen, incidents where they had a pretty good, score, the S2 score, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it happens.
Right.
You can't stop everything, but it makes figuring out what happened so much easier. It makes recovering from it so much faster.
Yeah.
Versus, when they have scores in the 400s with nothing, their firewall isn't logging traffic. Only logs are local on the server, and it's, couple weeks. Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah. You can't stop it, but.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. That's me again. I should turn
You're
off.
busy.
I am busy. I should turn off those meeting invites.
Anyway.
All right. So 82 cities and municipalities publicly hit. The whole Baltimore story, I think, is comical if it wasn't so sad. Lost $8 million in lost revenue in terms of, damaged real estate, utility payments, dismissed court cases, all kinds of things like that.
Well, what was the one, was it Atlanta? I mean, that was even bigger than Baltimore's in terms of...
yeah, but that was 2018.
Oh, was that?
We're not even going to talk about that right now.
I can't even keep it. See, that's the thing.
That was last year, brother.
It's just insane.
Right?
They do. They just all run together.
Right. And the city of Baltimore had 4 CIOs in 5 years. There was an information security manager who made a recommendation for cyber insurance, but they failed to approve that. The CISO, in July 2018, new city CISO Frank Johnson, not mentioning names, but Frank Johnson, presented a technology plan that provided little urgency for cybersecurity.
And, here's the thing, from experience working with, cities and counties, they are incredibly frustrated. The 4 and 5 years is not uncommon.
Right.
What happens is somebody gets in there, gets it for a year to get the title and the experience, and leaves for significantly more money because, the cities and counties just cannot compete. Right. And there's such a shortage. So, and when you have that much turnover, there's no continuity. There's no, right? Everybody comes in and wants to do things their way. So it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
There's no, I'm not surprised.
No. We shouldn't forget the Texas 22 cities were attacked through TSM Consulting. That happened in August. So those guys got hit. Lots of ransomware. Schools.
Yeah.
Right? We were talking about counties, cities, municipalities, and schools are all losing their battles, right? So counties, there's tons of reasons, tons of things. Cities, politics gets involved. We haven't made a good case, I don't think, they don't have, if you don't have budget, what are some of the free things, right? Because some of the things that you do don't require a ton of budget. Backing up your data doesn't require a ton of budget.
No.
In most cases.
Right? Even if you have to buy, even go to tape, right? Or back up to disk and replicate it somewhere, it's not a huge, you can do it fairly inexpensively now.
Right. So schools, 72 United States school districts were hit by ransomware, again, publicly, impacting 867 individual schools. Most recently, 9 new school districts representing 98 individual schools were attacked by ransomware last month in November, including Wood County schools in West Virginia, Port Neches Grove Independent School District in Texas, one in Indiana, New Jersey, Massachusetts, California, Illinois, New Hampshire, Maine.
Oh, and this is the one where you don't hear about these a lot.
Right.
Because there's no disclosure requirements unless the state has one. But if you look at, FERPA being kind of the federal one, there's no disclosure requirement.
So schools need our help too. Mm-hmm. So not just, municipalities and local governments, but schools also need their help. Schools are a different animal. I know that we'll be able to talk a lot more with Ryan Cloutier in future podcasts where we can get some more insight into what kind of goes on with schools. I was at ECMEC a couple weeks ago, which was a co-op for schools up in northern Minnesota. One thing's for sure, they all want to do the right thing.
Yeah, they just, so I spoke at the ASBO in October, and that's, school business, so it's not IT people. And I agree, they want to do the right thing. They have no idea.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the biggest challenge there, is educating them.
Yeah. Oh, and let's not forget the state of emergency in Louisiana.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they declared a state of emergency, according to the article, twice in 2019. Once isn't good enough.
Hopefully their budget for 2020 is taking that into consideration.
Right. Georgia had 30 magistrate courts and 23 municipal courts. 43 healthcare organizations across the country, all hit by ransomware. So, yes, it seems like we're losing on this front.
And this is one where we don't need to be.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
The ransomware, like you said, this is probably one of the, and I don't want to make light of it, but it's one of the easiest attacks to recover from.
Well, except for now, the switch to exfiltration.
Well, yeah. But in terms of a business functionality, being able to resume business operations.
Right.
You recover from backup.
Right. Yep.
Done.
Well, and assuming, that front number 1 stays the way it is and you have to disclose a breach of that data exfiltration, nobody's going to care anyway.
Yeah.
So.
I know.
So just back up and don't worry about it. Yeah. So anyway, that's a sad state of affairs, but I think we can on all these things are solvable, right? It's not easy, but who said it was going to be easy? Right.
Right.
I mean, I didn't work however many hours I worked this last year because it was easy.
Right.
So,
well, I think, it goes back to, it's not complex. It's not these really obscure, it's not, astrophysics or rocket science, but it's hard work.
Right.
But it's not complex or difficult.
Yeah. Difficult.
Maybe difficult.
But not complex.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people,
they overcomplicate
can confuse simple with easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's two different things, right?
True.
Simple.
It's a very simple concept to understand. Yeah. It's hard to.
It may be simple to walk from here to Brainerd, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just walk a straight line,
right?
But that's hard as hell, man. Especially for somebody who's, overweight, maybe
doesn't exercise.
Yeah. Well, I walked down the stairs at home today. I made it down there. All right. So front number 2, our local governments and schools are losing their battles, and we need to obviously do something about that. That was 2019. Front number 3, our homes are part of the battleground, and we seem ignorant about it. There's not a lot of study here. There's not a lot of, it's not sensational, right? It's not going to grab huge news. Sometimes you see the privacy things that happen, like,
it's when
mom heard something on the baby monitor or something.
Right. Yeah. The couple that had whatever taken over, and the person was basically terrorizing their, young child. Right. That's what you hear, but everyone's like, well, it's not going to happen to me.
Right. But it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is happening. And a lot of times it's not being reported. I think lots of times people don't even know it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did know what's happening, who do you report it to? What
are
they going to do? What you report it to the local police. What are they going to do?
Right. Well, and
is it going to make it into the news? Will I ever hear about it? Will you ever hear about it?
No. Well, and then you see the stories about like the smart TVs,
right,
that are taking screen captures
of
what you're watching.
You can't even buy dumb TVs anymore.
No, mine is absolutely not connected to the internet.
Right. It's crazy.
Right? And there's some, I think here, ignorance, and not willful ignorance, but just this isn't what people do.
Right.
Right. And, I do the parent presentation for safe and secure online for the I Am Cyber Safe or whatever it is.
Yeah.
IC squared. And every one of them, the parents are like, oh, like they want to know.
Right.
There's just not anything out there.
Yeah.
And it's like it's tough to get in front of them too. Right. Because everyone's like, I've got other things that are a priority,
right.
But then you get to do it and they're like, oh yeah, okay, that was worth it. But yeah, it's tough.
Well, one of the things that dawned on me when I was talking to the school districts a couple of weeks ago was they were very concerned about safety. Safety was,
but it's physical.
Well, and so that's what they were just very concerned about safety. So it was the question to the crowd is, can you separate information security, privacy, and safety? And the answer is you can't.
No.
Anymore. They're integrated all together. So even take physical security, and Ryan brought up a good point when I was talking to him last week. Ransomware takes out the building lock control system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now all the doors are unlocked.
Right.
So there's a safety issue.
Or right.
Or you can
somebody takes over it and locks them and
locks everybody in with a gun
right.
inside or something. Right. I mean, there's all kinds of things. So these things can't be separated anymore. And likewise, you can't separate security at home from security at work anymore.
Oh no. Yeah.
All of us work bring work home. Whether you're actually working at home or just bringing work home, you bring work home.
Well, and on the flip side, if your bank account gets drained, that's going to impact your ability to work? No, you're not going to be focused on work if you're like, what am I going to do?
Right. Well, all of us telework now, right?
Yeah. And then that's another big one.
Yeah. I mean, the security of my home network has an impact on security here. At work. The security of, my kids, if I let my kids use my laptop, to do homework or something, that's a security risk. There's things that matter in all of that.
Mm-hmm. That's why my kids have their own laptop.
Right. Well, and the same thing applies like if you get ransomware at your house and you decide to pay the ransom. Again, you're paying the crooks. The crooks are reinvesting that money to attack me.
Right.
Or let's say they take your computer over and make it part of a botnet.
Yeah.
And DDoS me.
Yep.
So all these things are all connected and you can't separate them anymore.
No. I think the overarching theme is just a lack of resources and a lack of knowledge. Right. It's not that people necessarily are intentionally doing these things, No,
right.
They just don't know better, and there's nothing out there to help them with it.
Yeah. Well, the things that are out there, they don't know about. Because there are some resources,
are some.
But they don't.
Right.
For whatever reason, they don't know about them. So how do this will be a big challenge for us in the coming years, is how do we elevate the knowledge of people at home? Ryan calls them humans. I call them normal people. Mm-hmm. Because they're struggling. They need our help. They're sitting ducks right now.
Right.
And the problem just keeps getting worse, right? We just wrapped up Christmas, and I haven't seen the sales numbers on smart devices and smart home crap.
Yeah.
But people are plugging more stuff in at home, making their life more and more complex, making it more and more difficult to secure stuff. And God knows how many of those things are set up with defaults. Never patched.
The majority.
I know. So it's like, oh my God, people stop, go back to go back to the simple stuff, right? The dumb things until you learn how to use the smart things. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing how to use the smart things right now. Right. Take your time.
Do you really need your dishwasher or your refrigerator or your washer and dryer on the internet?
No.
What is the value you're getting out of that?
Right. Yeah. It may seem really cool. Fight that urge until you learn how to secure it, right? Because there are, what's more secure? Is Alexa more secure than Google Home? I don't know, but I don't have either one in my house. And if I were to buy either one and I wanted that convenient, I would do the research to find out which one is more secure. And then I would install it securely.
Right.
I would segment it. I would isolate it on my network. I mean, there's all kinds of things that I would do, but I'm a security guy.
Right.
So how do we make more people more aware of security things and want to be motivated to do the right thing?
Well, I think you got to make it easy.
Sure.
Right? That's the biggest thing. If you sit down and they don't understand this. Right. So if you make it daunting or big, complex, they're checking out right away.
Right.
So we got to figure out a way to simplify and make it relatable for the normal people.
Right. No. Yeah, I agree with that completely. So, and the sad thing is knowing that I can't separate security, privacy, and safety at home, your children become prey. If you're ignorant of what your children are doing on smart devices, I got another meeting, I guess. If your children are ignorant of or if you're ignorant of smart devices and what your children are doing, the apps that they're using, the people that they're communicating with, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Sex trafficking is.
Oh yeah.
That's a big deal, and it's at an all-time high. And so is, predators, sexual predators.
Yeah. It's,
you ever watch that movie or that show, Catfish? Catfish?
No. Oh yeah. I've seen it. No, but I know what it is.
It's a good show. All right. So the question that I had for front number 3, our homes, is did the problem get worse this year in 2019?
Oh, yeah.
In your opinion? Okay. And you said that without hesitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just, if nothing else, just from a volume standpoint, right?
Right.
If 75% of people are leaving defaults and now you've got double the amount of devices out there.
Right.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So the second question then is, will this problem get worse before it gets better?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that too. So that's a sad state of affairs. So in your opinion, Brad, since you and I are friends and we're sitting here, on front number 1, it appears as though we're losing there. Breaches are more common than ever. And we seem to care less than ever. That's 2019. On front number 2, we're also losing. Our local governments and schools are losing their battles.
Mm-hmm.
And on front number 3, our homes are part of the battleground, and we seem ignorant. Whether it's willful or not, we're ignorant.
Yep.
It wasn't too depressing, was it?
No, it's
reality.
Yeah, it's
Isn't it?
a little bit scary, very frustrating. But, at the end of the day, I think the positive out of this is there's a lot of really, like you said, simple things people can do to make a huge impact.
Right.
Right. So, we can, let's work on that.
Let's get on it. Yeah. And so you're right. I mean, we do have a lot of work to do, and the answers may be simple, but they're not easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are no easy answers, no easy buttons.
No.
So if people want easy, that you're just going to get more of this.
If you want easy, go buy a farm with no internet and just live completely off the grid.
Or do what I'm going to do in 1,000. Hold on. I'm going to tell you how many days till this guy retires. Because there's a day. 1,354 days. So in that time, I will be easy.
There you go.
Right? I'll be in the Caribbean, living easy. Trying to, live out the rest of the days. But I think the answer is found in learning and applying information security fundamentals. We've talked about that. We preach that over and over and over again. I know it's not sexy. It's not entertaining. When you listen to a podcast like this and we're talking about fundamentals and things like that, people may be like, where's the cool stuff?
Yeah. I can tell you people have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on blinky lights and got completely owned.
Right.
It doesn't do anything.
All right. So we spent 2019 working hard. Both of us have at FR Secure. The 80 some odd employees there bust their behinds every day to try to make this better. Same thing with that security studio. We try so hard to reach people with simple, practical information security solutions, right? We realize that not everybody's going to be an information security expert. So how can we be their expert in a way that we can still pay the bills for us? We have families to raise and mouths to feed. So things like our vCISO, program where you may not need a full-time CISO, full-time security expert.
Right.
But tap into something.
Right.
And tap into something that's unbiased.
And the most successful companies that we've seen have somebody responsible for security and still do the vCISO because they realize I'm just one person here. I need a sanity check, a safety net, right?
Right. Another thing we did this last year to try to help here is we created the S2 org assessment, which used to be called FISA score, but we renamed it to put it on the new platform, which is a free information security risk assessment, for all organizations, right? It masters the fundamentals. It's not super deep in any one area of information security because that's not where the fundamentals lie.
Right.
But it's fundamentals. Not easy. If you go through the 687 questions that are in that assessment, as well as uploading your Nessus files and all that other stuff, that's not necessarily easy.
No.
But man, it pays huge dividends.
You know where you're at.
Small investment in time, right? So that's one of the tools we built and made it available for free. One of the cool things we've seen is I think 20 some odd counties in the state of Minnesota have adopted or you're using the S2 score.
Yeah,
right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's free.
Right.
I don't know how
right.
The S2 vendor, which is a vendor risk management tool, that is not free, so I'm not going to spend any time on that. But the other one is the S2 Me, which I think is kind of cool. I think there's a lot of places that this can go. But this is another free information security risk assessment for all people. I took it. My wife took it.
Yep.
You took it. Your wife took it. It teaches you the fundamentals of information security at home.
Mm-hmm.
It's not super sexy. It takes about 15 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
The more people that end up doing it, the more time we're going to spend developing it. So if there's not a ton of people who are using that tool right now, we're going to let it kind of sit for a little while.
Yeah. Well, you need some usage to understand where to go.
Exactly.
Right? And the nice thing with the S2Me is I've gotten feedback from people that have done it, and they're like, it took, they took them 20, 25 minutes because they didn't understand it, and they spent a lot of time reading the threat and the recommendations and going through all that. And that's nice. It does have it, but they're like, there's so many things that I never would have thought of.
Right.
Yeah. That's
the ignorance, right? And we're trying to help.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny to me to hear it because, right, this is what we do and it's just second nature.
Right.
And so, yeah.
So that's a free tool. And if you want to know where these links are, you can go to the show notes. It's evanfrancine.com, EVANFRANCEN.com. Go to the episode 60 show notes. There's links about almost to the end of the page for the S2 org and the S2 Me, free assessments. Try it out and give us feedback. What did you like? What did you not like? So that we can improve it and make it better for more people.
Yes.
And there's no catch. That's why I don't mind sharing.
I think that's what people are, they're hesitant or whatever, because a lot of people put it out there and don't want to hear feedback. No, Tell us.
I know.
Help us get better at this.
Been begging for it. So we made some of those tools for free. We also made the ransomware readiness assessment free. That's on FR Secure's website. So if you want that, let us know. But anyway, we're trying to fight these battles. We're trying to arm people to win these battles on all fronts. So front one, again, losing, too many breaches, bad things happening, people not understanding the fundamentals. Front two, local governments and schools are losing, and front three, at home.
Yeah.
So, Brad, anything else to add?
It won't be this negative next week.
That's true. It won't be. Well, and I hate leaving people with like, hey, here's all the crap. Yeah. And I have no solution.
Well, yeah, but I think...
Because we're going to dig in on this racket that I was talking to you about earlier on the whole social security number thing, identity theft thing is such a racket.
There's got to be a better way.
We're going to spend a whole show on that sometime. All right. Well, that's a wrap for another show. Another decade in the books. Crazy. I didn't think I'd live this long. But heck, that's it. Thank you and Happy New Year to our listeners. Be safe out there, please. Don't do what I used to do when I used to drink. I'm not going into that either.
Yeah.
All right. Be sure to tune in next week. We'll cover some positive things.
Yes.
There were many, many positive things that happened in 2019 and really good things, I think, to look forward to. I have some predictions. I always have some.
Yeah.
You probably do too.
And I like the idea of starting off the year on a positive note, right?
God forbid I would sit here and tell you that 2019 was a successful year in our industry.
Right.
When you look at some of this data, it's like,
I'm
not going to ignore it. So anyway, we love recording these shows for you. We hope you enjoy them. Send us your questions and feedback at unsecurity@protonmail.com. If you are the social type, socialize with us on Twitter. I'm at Evan Francine. It's EVANFRANCEN. And this other guy is at Brad Nye. It's BRADNIGH.
And I will say, one of my goals in 2020 is to actually use Twitter a little bit more rather than just as in like a aggregator.
Oh, it gets addicting, man. You get trolled. It's the worst time ever. All right. Well, Happy New Year. That's it.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the UNSECURITY podcast. We value our listeners and would love to hear from you. Give us your feedback by emailing us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. That's unsecurity@protonmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week to hear the latest insights from Brad and Evan.